This episode is brought to you by Resy and American Express. Resy is a digital platform that connects restaurants to restaurant lovers by elevating dining experiences, providing original industry content, and helping to fill some of the country's most exciting dining rooms. Because restaurants have always been more than just places to eat. The amazing world of restaurants is just a few taps away in the Resy app and at resy.com.
Once upon a mundane morning, Barb's day got busy without warning. A realtor in need of an open house sign. No, 50 of them, and designed before 9.
My head hurts.
Any mighty tools to help with this plight?
Aha!
Barb made her move. She opened Canva and got in the groove.
Bulk creating Canva sheets. Create 50 signs fit for suburban streets.
Done in a click, all complete.
Sweet!
Now, imagine what your dreams can become when you put imagination to work at canva.com.
I am currently testing out the idea about whether or not we might be in like a brunch recession. Now, fewer and fewer restaurants are introducing brunches, or they have gotten rid of brunch entirely. Like Bonnie's famously had brunch for like the blink of an eye and then got rid of it.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rodbard. Nikita Richardson, welcome to This is Taste. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to chat with you. This is Food Writers talking about food writing.
Yeah.
And we don't know each other. We just met today.
Internet people, though.
We are internet
know
people.
of each other.
We know each other. Of each other. I know your work and respect it. Yeah. I think a big part of your job was launching these tremendous newsletters at the New York Times and thinking about newsletter as a form and how that is possibly more intimate than other forms of writing. How did you land in that role as a staff writer, senior staff writer at New York Times?
Well, I was previously at New York Magazine at Grub Street, but during the pandemic, I switched over to The Strategist and was writing about Kitchen and Dining. That's like their shopping site.
Yeah.
And at some point, like I guess they'd opened up 2 senior staff editor roles, and funnily enough, Lagaya Michon, who's now one of our co-restaurant critics, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, like I think that you should apply for this job." And I thought she wanted me to apply for a reporter job. And at that point, I was kind of sick of being a reporter. Like now that I've met great reporters, I was like, I was good. I was never that, but I was not that level of great. And I knew I wanted to be an editor eventually. So I said, no, thank you, but thanks for thinking of me. And then the Times reached out to me again. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a reporter. And then the third time, Emily Weinstein, who's the editor-in-chief of the section, she ended up emailing me. She said, "Hey, we want you to apply for an editor role." I said, "Oh, okay."
I love it.
And that's how I ended up applying for that job and doing it like everyone else did it. The edit test, there's a very difficult edit test.
Oh, I've heard. I've never taken it, but I've heard.
Yeah, it just requires a lot of knowledge of grammar. And if you've come from a publication like I did, New York Magazine, where we had like copy desk, it's like I knew my grammar, but I didn't know my grammar like that. And so, but then, all the other typical edit test stuff. And it was like a months-long process, but I landed the job, and that's how I ended up at the Times at the end of 2020.
Nice. And you find a role writing these newsletters and overseeing these newsletters. Tell me about what this newsletter, Where to Eat New York City, how it evolved, and what your current team is up to right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, the initial idea was in 2021, after having all these restaurants have been closed through 2020. Yeah. A lot of them didn't make it onto the other side. And then slowly at the end of 2021, you could start to see like after a wildfire, the green shoots of restaurants starting to kind of pop up.
Yeah.
And the Times has, traditionally covered restaurants through, like Florence Fabricant doing off the menu, which is her openings column, and the Restaurant Review. But since I joined and since 2020, there's been a big push to kind of expand our restaurant coverage. The national restaurant list that we do now of like the 50 best restaurants of the year was part of that. And I was kind of just thinking in a more, granular way, how can we cover restaurants beyond the review? Because coming from a place like Grub Street and, food media in general before that, you're covering the day-to-day of restaurants and not just this restaurant now or, in a fleshed out, article.
Yeah.
And so, I also felt as if I didn't know what the restaurant landscape looked like anymore, and maybe there were other people who felt the same way. Like, where do you even what came back?
It was a full reset moment.
Exactly, like what's around, and the idea was, okay, well, why don't we? So in the summer of 2021, I pitched Emily Weinstein, and I said, I think that we just need a restaurant's newsletter. Like, we already had What to Cook, which is the Times recipes newsletter, and I said we could call it Where to Eat, and it would just be, about, I don't know, like not necessarily tied to what's new, but also just a broad adoration of New York City as the, beautiful dining heaven that it is. And that if you've ever had to like go home to your hometown in the suburbs and be like, where do I even go eat? And we have just so many choices. And I guess the idea was to make people like, they don't have to be so obsessed that they're following all these restaurant Instagrams, but if they read it every week, they would know more than the average person who doesn't really pay attention to this. Yeah. And that's how it was born. And so I wrote it for, I didn't want to write it. Yeah. I just wanted to edit it.
You want to edit. That's your role.
I did want to edit it, but
like,
if not me, then who? Yeah. If not now, then when? And so I ended up.
You were hesitant.
I raised my hand. I said, okay, I'll write it. And so I was writing that newsletter and being a full-time editor at the same time. Yeah. So, which is very difficult. If you know anything about how, journalism is laid out, it's like editors edit, reporters report, and it's rare to be both and to do them at the same time. Usually it's one or the other. And so I was doing both, and I had a wonderful editor, Mark Josephson, and we worked together on it for a while. And then it got to a point where I was like, I don't know if I can keep up this pace because it's once a week and recommending 3 restaurants.
That you physically are going
to but after work usually because I would need to work during the day.
And
a lot of restaurants aren't open in the middle of the day, so you have to go after work. And so eventually we brought on my colleague, Becky Hughes, who actually leads up our social media team, but loves restaurants as well, has lived in New York for quite a while. And she, started switching with me every other week. And then over the summer, I finally stepped down as the lead writer of it. And we brought on Luke Fortney, who had previously worked at Eater. And he now writes it 3 times a month, and Becky writes it once a month.
It's a great cadence for those 2 writers who I really respect. Yeah. I love their work. They have unique voices and points of view. I love that Luke is doing these videos now, too.
Yeah.
And it's a smart wrinkle. The videos are looking
He just has
tremendous.
A ton of energy. And, I landed at the Times when I was 30. And by that point, I did not want to be out anymore. And now I'm 35 and I really don't want to be out like that. And Luke is 5 years younger than me. So I'm like, you have all the energy and you're freelance. So you can go do this. And I love pointing somebody in a direction and being like, run.
I love it. Yeah.
And that really works. And so now I get to, you should never turn your hobby into a job, and I actually turned my hobby into a job.
Yeah, it makes you hate your hobby. It makes you really want to run away from your hobby.
Exactly.
I want to ask you about just the reviewing of the Times. I've had Lagaya and Tejal on, and Emily and the whole team, and I love having Times editors on and writers. When that announcement was made of your new co-critics, there was a little hint in the press release that there would be more restaurant reviews. Was that kind of the hint, the Luke and Becky role, or will there be more smaller reviews at some point, do you think?
I can't exactly get into it because, as Emily would say, that's proprietary information. But I do know that there's, people feel like the Times doesn't cover New York City enough, that it's Oh, well, especially because Lagaya is not just doing New York. She's also covering, she went down to D.C. and covered the new Kwame Anuachi restaurant. She went to Chicago and reviewed Alinea. And so, which kind of has always been insulting to me because I was like, what has my newsletter been for the last 4 years?
Yeah.
We've been covering New York every single week.
Totally
every week.
respect.
We don't have weeks off. We even over like the week of Christmas, you'll get a newsletter from us. So we are constantly covering it. It's just, if you think that reviews are the only way to cover a city, I think that's a very narrow view of how to cover it, because we've been covering it every single week in Where to Eat since March 2022. And now, and like that was also, it's also a newspaper column. And then, we do these huge, we try and do these big tentpole stories about 57 sandwiches that define New York City, or like best pizza, or like the best croissants.
You're working on those features.
Yeah. So we've had those come out, and we don't, the thing is like there's a lot of listicles out there. So for me, I really want it to be like beyond just a listicle. Like how can you tell a story through a list? So like when we did sandwiches, that was kind of telling the story of, well, New York City culturally has so many different layers to it, and we're just using sandwiches as a common denominator. And it's not even about best. Best is fine, but best is kind of like it's a pat way of describing food.
It's like anti-intellectual
when
almost.
when there's so many different ways to talk about food, and it's not about being exhaustive. It's about having a point of view.
I love that you did that with the croissant feature that Mahira Rivers wrote.
Yeah.
The croissants.
She's incredible.
She's amazing. And I think to your point, and you really hit the objective, which was talk about New York as a city, as a multicultural city through croissants. And I love that you clarified that. And I feel like now I'm like really satisfied, because I guess in my head, kind of like an old head way, I'm like, bring back Hungry City, do shorter reviews of outer borough restaurants. But like you literally have been doing that since 2020, and I read your newsletter, and then for whatever reason in my head, and it's literally printed in the paper, right?
Yeah, it is.
So like it's there, guys. I'm saying this to myself, guys, because I'm the one who keeps bringing it up. You haven't covered New York.
Yeah.
So happy you came on to really enlighten me about that.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the food writing, but first, we've been talking so much like broadly about restaurants, but what is one restaurant that you've been to recently that has excited you?
I went to, honestly, I put this in the newsletter this week, but I am currently testing out the idea about whether or not we might be in like a brunch recession, which is that my colleagues have heard me rant about this for a while.
Rant on.
It might be a bit shaky, but the idea being that it used to be that a restaurant of a certain like echelon, or that was trying to appeal to a certain crowd would, you start with dinner service, and then eventually you introduce brunch. And now fewer and fewer restaurants are introducing brunches, which means, or they have gotten rid of brunch entirely. Like Bonnie's famously had brunch for like the blink of an eye and then got rid of it. Hart's in Bed-Stuy, where I live, used to have brunch before the pandemic. They've never brought it back, and RIP, because it was a great brunch. But I just like, and which means that the best brunches are now extremely hard to get into, right? Because we don't have a plurality of great brunch. We have a lot of average brunch, but not great. And so I've been I'm testing out my theory by going to brunch lately. And I ended up at Siddell's, which I had never been to, even though it's been around forever. And I found like a random reservation on like a Friday morning, and my sister and I went, and the pancakes were actually the best pancakes I've had in so long, and I had recently had the Chez Matant pancakes.
Oh, that's the legend,
which have been the standard for a while. But when I had them, like I'm not like no tea, no shade. Like I think it was just like they were not as crispy as I remember them being, but the Siddell's pancakes were very crispy.
Pancake tip, nice.
I think the pancakes were. Yeah. I am still talking about them weeks later. Me and my sister.
Stissing House had a short-lived brunch as well in Hudson Valley, and they killed it. I just think there's got to be a bigger story here. You're an editor. I'm sure you'll sign it.
I mean, what I've been told is that, like for the margins on brunch are just not nearly as high. And also people don't drink as much at brunch as they do at dinner.
Yep.
So if you're not, unless like boozy brunch works, but boozy brunch and quality do not go hand in hand. So,
because no one wants to spend $75
Exactly.
on brunch.
And people, exactly. And so it's like, okay, I'm going here for brunch. The food is amazing, but I'm not going to get liquored up.
Yeah.
And that is really hard to justify when you could just have your staff, start their day at a reasonable time and, be done for the night by 10, 11 midnight and like start opening your doors at 5.
It's also like the worst shift to work.
Which is all to
too.
say, I understand why, but I'm still hurting inside.
You're
about
hurt. Yeah. Well, I'll take it too. I was just in Los Angeles, and my meal that I want to talk about is at Etra, which is a restaurant that I've seen a lot online, but really I didn't know much about the like format, and I just wanted to put eyes on it because I think some friends had said it was great, and it was. It's from a chef, Andrew Lawson. He used to work at Estella here in New York, and when you walk in, it feels like New York in Los Angeles. It's kind of tight. There's candlelight or very mood lighting. It's noisy. It's got great music, and it feels like kind of counter to LA. I sat in the patio, which was very LA. So I was like, I don't need to sit in a crowded restaurant in Los Angeles. No need for that. But I love the cooking. It's it's an Italian restaurant. That's all I really got to say. It's not flashy, and I hope that's a compliment because I think it's a very accessible place. The limone pasta was a real highlight. And to me, Los Angeles has a new neighborhood restaurant. Yeah. So
the New York chef diaspora is real.
Yeah.
That's how the Hudson Valley became a great restaurant scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Give me your top 3 in Hudson Valley.
Oh, I don't know if I have a top. I haven't been in a while. I'm actually trying to go next week, and I haven't been there in a little while, but I think I would go. Okay. This has been a while.
On the spot, Nikita.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. So actually, Sissinghouse is that girl.
Yeah.
Always has been that girl. Will always be that girl. Sissinghouse is, if you're ever in Pine Plains, you actually have to go. I love Sissinghouse.
Yeah.
So already, thank you for reminding me before I even said it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know everyone ruined it, but like Cafe Mutton, I know it was great. But it really is good. That's how I want to eat. Yeah. I haven't been in a while though. I might try and go back.
I haven't been in 2 years, and I love it. It's so.
But I know
creative.
that the restaurant industry, I know that Restaurant Media Week ruined it because we put it on like best of lists, and then no one could get in.
And then James Beard 2 years in a row finalists.
So it's probably chilled out by now.
It's chilled, yeah.
But yeah. Also, I mean, I haven't been in a while, but I just remember the last time I was in Kingston. I felt like the restaurant scene there was better than Hudson. I thought Kingston had so many good spots. I don't know them off the top of my head. I haven't been in a while, and I wrote this newsletter about it like 2 years ago. But I do like when you're leaving the area to go to Moonburger.
Yeah.
And because it's right off the highway. And even though I think that they used to be vegan, I don't know.
No, they're actually beef based now.
Now they're
and
I
know.
But they still have a vegan.
Oh,
option.
they got a vegan burger for sure.
Yeah.
This show. Thank you for bringing up Kingston. Mm-hmm. We talk about Kingston all the time on the show. I don't live too far from there.
It's what food media does.
No, I love that town, and we don't need to keep talking about it. But it is. I'm glad you brought it up because I just went to Ang's recently, which is this historical Chinese restaurant in Kingston. It's amazing. Today's episode of This Is Taste is brought to you by Grow Therapy. Have you ever tried to Google therapist near me and ended up more anxious than when you started? Now, I did this once and landed on some guy in Brooklyn Heights who wanted to charge me $900 for a session. Now, I get that brownstone living is expensive. And those weekly visits to Lavara, those can add up. But come on, man. $900? Grow Therapy makes it way less overwhelming and way more affordable. Whether it's your first time in therapy or your 50th, Grow makes it easier to find a therapist who fits your needs. They connect you with thousands of independent, licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions, nights and weekends. It's that easy. And you can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. And if something comes up, you can cancel up to 24 hours in advance at no cost. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your own time. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Sessions average about $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0, depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/taste today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/taste. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan. Okay, let's get to some food writing. First story we're going to talk about, Bring Back the Coffee Shop Tip Jar Even If It's Digital by Alan Tietzema in New York at New York Magazine. Alan is the longtime editor there.
And my former boss.
Your former boss, I know. And I have to say, I love that Alan is writing a lot these days. He's writing, I think, a column or a semi-frequent column. He's writing for Grub Street, and
I think he's taking over writing Eating New York. I think there was literally just an announcement about that yesterday.
Oh, cool. I missed that one. So that's great. I love Alan.
It was yesterday, so
yeah, there we go.
It's in your inbox right now.
News. Alan is the new Eating New York writer. I love that. I think Alan should be writing. He's got a terrific point of view, a lot of history, and has great taste. So Alan writes this great story about this recent Square data that stated for the first time since 2015 the average amount that customers tip at any Square's payments terminal and kiosk has dropped below 15%. He acknowledges that there are some reasons for this. It could be tip fatigue, could be diners experiencing economic worries. There's, of course, the inflated price of goods, which make the $1 tip less than it once was. He also thinks the screens are too complicated, which I have to agree with. So he's proposing bringing back the tip jar, which we love, throw in $1, throw in some change. He's like, well, we know that people don't really carry currency anymore, so maybe it should just be a digital version. His suggestion is to basically say, okay, yes, I will pay for this thing, and here's the card, and would you like to add a tip? Simple question. Would you like to add a tip? Hit yes. How much? Hit the amount. That is what a tip jar is. Nikita, what did you think about this piece?
In the broad scheme of journalism, anything about tips causes ruckus lately. People feel angry about them. I think Alan famously also wrote a story like that years ago about how if you can't afford to pay do a 20% tip, then you shouldn't be dining out at all. I mean, I don't disagree with that. But I think my broad assessment is that it's hard to extrapolate from that data point why people are changing their behavior. I think with coffee shops, it's so weird because at my local coffee shop, if you just get a coffee, then it says $1, $2, $3.
Yeah.
Okay, and I historically was tipping $2, but I need to chill with that because I get coffee there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's $2 because it's for each of the baristas working.
I like that.
Who I love.
Hey, Nikita, I like that mentality.
But the coffee already costs $5,
Yeah.
so it's $7. If I go there 4 times a week, that's $28. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I love them. Shout out.
What's it? Shout
Little
out.
Roy.
Yeah.
Love you. Great granola. And but then say if I get a coffee and I also get a Topo Chico lime, then it takes it as a broad cost and it says 15%, 20%, 25%. And I said, well, I'm only tipping for the coffee. I'm not tipping for the drink I just pulled out of the fridge. So I have to go in and I'm going to make it $1, $2, not whatever, $2.18.
Yeah.
So I guess why am I fighting for 18
Bingo.
cents?
I think that's the point. I think it's we're talking about less than $1 differences. But I see your point, especially if you bought a bag of coffee and then it's 15, 20, 25.
If you buy a bag of coffee, you get a free cup of coffee though.
Well, so that's what good coffee shops, their roasters do as well. I think that's smart. I just think that having that simple, would you like to add a tip? Yes. How much? It allows you to type in a number.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that would provide more tips because I think a lot of people are just skipping the screen at coffee shops.
I might get arrested for this, but if somebody leaves up the tip screen and they walk away, I tip for them. Is that fraud? Is that fraud?
Wow. I mean,
I literally, it's they walk away, and if they leave it, I'm not saying if they don't tip at all, okay, but if they left it up and they just walked away, I assume that they meant to tip. And so I just
I like this.
I just hit it with a.
I mean, they could be distracted and just trying to get on with their day, and maybe it's pre-coffee. Their brain is not fully firing. I'm with you on that. But do you do 25% or 20 if you're tipping for somebody else in front of you?
oh, like I'm not a monster. I'll do like 22%.
2022, yes,
but
good.
it's like usually 20. I don't know if we need to push it up for inflation at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just talking about, I'm literally only talking about coffee shop. Like if it was a 25%, I would not touch somebody's. I'm just talking about coffee.
No, of course. I know.
Yeah, but like $1, $2, $3,
it's small.
I'll be like, here's $1, guys, on that person.
Wonder what the barista would do. Interesting.
The baristas will never do it themselves.
No.
So they need me to be their Robin Hood and do it for them. And because I love them. And I mean, if the person would come back and be like, fraud, I didn't tip you $1, they could blame me, I suppose. But I think if you do that, I'm like, I'm not going to clear the screen. I'm going to just give the tip.
Yeah, you're I love that
You
you're Robin
walked
Hood.
away. I don't know. I'm jail.
Let's talk about the next story. This TikTok food trend is more than 10,000 years old by
Smoked
Genevieve
salmon.
Ko in the New York Times. First off, did you write that headline? Did you work on
No,
this
I did
piece
not.
with her?
I didn't work on this story.
Great headline.
But we all looked at the pictures last week, and she was like, I know this picture isn't very appealing because it's just like smoked salmon. It's hard to make sexy.
I know, and we struggle with that at Taste all the time when you have like a story with heritage and place, and you have the art program, and you're like, yeah, this doesn't look that delicious, but you're telling the story. So whoever on your team wrote that headline, I love that headline. Maybe it was Genevieve. She's in it.
It might have,
Might have been the writer. But this story I wanted to talk about is great. It's a terrific piece where the New York Times digs into the modern buzz around home salmon smoking, both cold and hot smoking. Genevieve has a great line to describe these videos. I would call them that they were making salmon big on TikTok, which is crazy to say as someone who's loved salmon literally my whole life. But, quote, self-described smoked salmon girlies pinched off pieces, tugging them from the skin, then took wide-eyed bites, some licking and chewing suggestively, one feeding bits to her toddler in between her own mouthfuls. Other, mostly non-girlies, grasped the fillet with both hands and pulled the meat off the skin with their teeth like a bear. Curious stuff there, those images. Nice writing there. I think the piece writes about how this moment on TikTok was possibly a stunt by an Idaho-based company called Solvi Kitchen. And today, Solvi Kitchen has unusually high volumes of orders because of these TikTok influencers discovering smoked salmon. I think the zoom out is really key here, as is key in a lot of New York Times feature reporting, which we talk about on the show quite a bit. She points out that how freshly caught salmon is sliced off its bones, quickly wet brined, and hung in cold smokehouses for days over slowly smoldering alder wood that doesn't emit heat but infuses the fish with its scent. That this tradition is old. In North America, there's archaeological evidence of fisheries that date back 12,000 years. And really this piece is terrific to show this kind of tension between old and new, and the native foodways, indigenous
people,
foodways is at the heart of the story, and how smoking salmon is really important to indigenous foodways. So I love the piece, and we're linking to all these in the show notes. What did you take away from it?
Everything new is old.
Totally.
Nothing is new. Time is a flat circle. We've never invented anything.
Yeah, we haven't invented anything.
It's very hard to do anything novel when you are this far into human history. I mean, the thing is, though, we need this to happen because, Saul Zabar died this week, and somebody needs, I've actually been thinking a lot lately about how there was this whole, there's an article in the Times about how among the share of people who've been unemployed long-term, college-educated people represent a third of that group of people. You're going to be like, where are you going with this, Nikita? And I have a place I'm taking it. Mm-hmm. So I asked aloud, does this mean that we're about to have another wave of artisanal producers? Because if you remember in the late 2000s, early 2010s in New York, when there was a recession and people didn't have a job, all of these people started all these artisanal companies that they were selling their homemade mustards and, they started these kind of cottage businesses and were taking what had been, these old ways of doing things, and we're going to bring back quality. You don't have to buy XYZ major, like, generic mustard brand. Like, you can have artisanal mustard. And, not every one of those businesses has survived to today, but I wonder, are we about to face are we going to have another artisanal wave coming?
Yeah.
And is this the seedling of that, if that makes sense? You know what I mean? Like, that people are... It's good when young people are learning how to do something old.
I agree.
Traditionally.
Yeah.
Because in the apocalypse, you have to have a skill.
Yeah. and I think like cold smoking fish pulled from a stream is probably going to be the way we are surviving the apocalypse.
I mean, I know how to weave, knit. I'm making clothing in the apocalypse. I made this sweater I'm wearing.
Yeah. Beautiful. Nice job.
Thank you. I think that I don't like when we try and paint things that are old as new.
Yeah.
Like, read a book. Even, I don't know, open a Wikipedia page. But, like, at the same time, it's net good for anyone young to be learning a traditional way to make something.
Yeah.
Like,
I
let's
agree.
get back to learning how to make things.
Very perceptive about this kind of mirroring of that post-recession moment in 2010, where you would see a lot of heritage ideas or heritage concepts repackaged for this newfound e-com world.
Yeah.
Now we're a decade and a half past that, and e-com is table stakes, truly, and we're seeing it happen again.
Yeah.
But I think you're right that seeing a younger generation embrace food ways and heritage, while hopefully respecting it and acknowledging it, not just fully ripping it off. And you see it quite a bit.
Yeah.
People recognize heritage, and in the branding, there's tips to where it comes from as place. I think it's good.
And if you saw the salmon run this year in Alaska, it was incredible.
It was. I heard from somebody.
It was like record numbers.
The record numbers of salmon. They came roaring back. And so I think that's good for us salmon fans.
Love you, salmon. Shout out.
A shout out to the Alaska salmon fisheries. Next story, very fun. Fellas, is it chuggy to make a mug cake? This is by Anna Heasel, our friend at Best Food Blog. Really fun one from Anna. She's talking about chuggy, which, basic,
Which has
simple.
come up twice this week now.
Tammy Teclamarian wrote chuggy in the headline too.
Yep.
I was like, they're friends. Are they talking? Are they reading each other's
Yeah,
copy?
I also wonder if Alan wrote that, because Alan technically is her boss.
Yeah, right. I wonder. I thought the same thing.
This is so inside baseball right now.
But this is Food Writers talking about food writing. You're this far because you care about this stuff. No, I wonder if this reclaiming of chuggy, because it feels like it's like 18 months past date, that term chuggy.
Chuggy became chuggy.
Chuggy became chuggy. That's inside baseball in the best way. Yeah. But Anna writes about the mug cake. How she was kind of mixed on it early on. To remind everyone, a mug cake is a microwavable pastry that can be made from a mix. I think Betty Crocker has like kind of a corner on the market for pre-mixed mug cakes, but you can also do it from scratch. They're easy to make. You can make them under 10 minutes. And I like the piece because Anna, speaks her truth. She has come around on the mug cake. And how? Well, Allie Slagle, New York Times recipe. The microwave sticky toffee pudding was Anna's entry point into the mug cake.
What won't Allie Slagle do?
Isn't Allie just the best?
She is, not only is she an amazing recipe developer, she's a very kind person.
She's a very kind person. You're absolutely right. And writes fan favorite recipes.
Yeah.
And we publish her cookbooks here, and she's amazing. I think this mug cake, it's probably 10, 15 minutes. There's some pulsing that is required, multiple steps, but it's a simple recipe with butter, brown sugar, cream, 2 medjool dates, which I like the specificity. I gotta make one. I haven't made a mug cake.
I gotta get into this too, because after I eat dinner, or I feel like an ancestral pull to eat something sweet.
Yeah.
And I never have anything sweet in my house right after. So it's like sometimes it could be like granola and yogurt. Yeah. Or I would love for it to be chocolate cookies, but that's a whole thing. I have to prepare those. Yeah. And I think maybe what I need to do is start investing heavily in the mug cake.
Oh, mug cake, yeah. You could do pre-mix. I
think I'm gonna do this Allie Slagle one.
It seems
you
good.
Would think working at New York Times, I would actually know about it, but I don't cook that often because I go out to eat a lot.
Yeah.
So I live by myself, so I try and keep my cooking to a minimum because I don't like leftovers either.
Oh.
But Yeah, there's a lot of, I have a lot of picadillos, if you will. But like,
I wouldn't. I like that you specify that you're not like a huge home cook because like
I love cooking for other people. I like love cooking for a group, but for myself, I'm like
yourself, right?
I'm pretty like plain Jane about it. I'm like I don't go crazy.
I think like there's roles in food media and they're not all the same. And like when you're working like the features restaurant beat, you're maybe not thinking about cooking in the recipe world. Have you had? Okay, this is funny. Yasso, those yogurt bars.
No,
dude, we got a problem over in my household. They're really good. If you want, like, the macros are quite good. They're these frozen pop like yogurt bars that are chocolate covered.
Yeah,
that's my sweet treat.
If it's something that can be. If it like, I just don't want to buy anything that's gonna go rotten in my fridge. You know what I mean? Since it's frozen, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, it won't go get rotten, and I just think it's a nice one. Anyways.
I just got some Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream, which everyone knows is the best ice cream on
obviously.
earth.
Well documented on the show.
The best flavor and the best. And Haagen-Dazs is from right here in New York. It's
totally.
not even a little bit European.
Not a little bit European. Best industrial, widely available ice cream is Haagen-Dazs.
Haagen-Dazs, shout out. They do not sponsor me.
No, not us either. We are not sponsored by an ice cream company. I'd love to have that happen someday. Last story is one you wrote. Tony Shalhoub will travel for bread. Written by yourself in the New York Times. I really like this profile. I wanted to talk to you about it because you made a choice to profile somebody, and I wanted to find out what drew you to Tony Shalhoub and his new show Breaking Bread, which looks really cool. I haven't watched it yet, but I want to. And tell me about Tony's interest in bread. This
is technically my second profile of the year. I feel like this is almost less of a profile, more of like a profile about a show that just happens to feature him. I also wrote one about the comedian Josh Johnson, which is that my interest in writing is when I really feel interested in the subject. That's when I like to write. And I think I do my best reporting when I'm interested in the subject, like extremely interested. So with Tony Shalhoub, I am obsessed with the show Monk. Have been since I was a teenager. I've rewatched it like 3 or 4 times. I grew up like loving that show. And somebody said, "Oh, did you guys know Tony Shalhoub has a show?" And I said, "I will profile him.
Yeah.
I got this, guys." But like, despite being a fan, it is not a fangirl article. I asked some tough questions. But I think it's more, what's more interesting is that there's this CNN universe of food stuff and of food like travel shows, which obviously is most famously associated with Anthony Bourdain and Parts Unknown, but that they keep on. I don't know if they're trying. I don't think they're. I don't think at all that they're trying to recreate what Bourdain did. I think though that they know that travel, food, and a recognizable talent go together. Yeah. And they used to have a show with Stanley Tucci.
But they booted him.
It got canceled. Yeah. They have one with Eva Longoria, and then Tony Shalhoub, was shopping around this idea. And I didn't get it in the story, but he's actually been thinking about this for ages. Yeah. Like, one of his family members pitched this show to him like years ago, and it was called Breaditerranean. And I know.
Tough hang.
I know.
Tough hang.
And like, I think like they circled around it, and then finally, I guess, because, he's wherever he is right now with like, I don't know if he's not in like a show right now. You know what I mean? He's like not Marvelous Mrs. Maisel's over. And,
he walks onto things.
He does, exactly. He's probably has a Broadway
film.
show.
He's in film quite a bit too.
Exactly.
I think. Yeah.
But he has a illustrious. I think also another reason to write is because like, how many different people have had as long of a career as he has, like where he's been on major shows consistently over decades. You know what I mean? He was on Wings, then he was on and then he was in Big Night, he was in Monk for I think 7 or 8 years. They did a Monk movie. He was on Marvelous Mrs. Maisel for, I think that was a 4-season show, 4 or 5 seasons. So, I think it makes sense. And then to meet with him and learn that I think he just has like a very open heart, and he's a very warm person. I say in the story too, of course people are going to draw comparisons between him and Stanley Tucci. They were in a movie together. but like Stanley Tucci, I think, and I write this in there, he has like a very dry way of speaking. He isn't very, emotional. Though I watched the show Tucci and is it Tucci in Italy?
Yeah.
Yeah, on Hulu. It's actually quite good. I thought
really?
It was really good.
I was
yeah.
hanging out with some folks, maybe of an older generation, and they were really bagging on the new show. They were
See,
like,
I think,
bring
like-
back old Tucci. I'm like, oh.
I don't know about, I didn't watch Searching for Italy, the original show yet on CNN, but I think that what I liked about it was I thought that the subject matter was really, I thought they were covering Italy in a way that was more esoteric than people being like, we're in Rome, we're in Florence. He like goes to like the very north of Italy.
Or
like
Puglia.
Where, exactly, like he goes to regions that don't receive nearly as much coverage and have these really incredible cultural, like close to, the German border, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's people who speak Italian and German. He talks about like an ethnic group that is, the show covers an ethnic group in that area. I'd never heard of that. So I liked that element of it. I'm sure people have opinions. They always do, unfortunately.
It's interesting how him and Tucci started in Big Night, which is like the food movie.
Yeah.
Like such a great food film. And clearly Shaloub has had, and that was like an early role for him, has had a deep connection to food. Yeah. What I liked about this piece is your interview with Amy Entelis from CNN, lower in the piece, but really important because like CNN was the home to Bourdain and clearly acknowledged that premium high quality documentary can do really well. But on the flip side, they cut all their shows except for this one. So I was like wondering in that conversation with Amy, maybe didn't get in the piece or not, like what is CNN's future with this kind of programming? It seems like maybe this new Shaloub show is a tell for future seasons.
I mean, I think that they'll keep on. I think it's just part of what is sometimes called at the Times counter-programming, which is that people don't want to watch the news all the time. They don't want to be exposed to, they don't want to constantly be exposed to the harsh reality of life, which is, politics, war, famine, all those things. And there's always room for escapist TV, right? And they will keep on making that on Sundays because there's an entire audience of people who do not watch football and want to watch something on a Sunday, right? And so I'm not one of those people, by the way.
You're a football fan.
I do, but mostly college.
What's your team? Oh,
University
me too.
of Georgia.
Oh, Georgia.
Dogs.
Oh, yeah, I'm a Badger, but you're better. Well, those are the stories of the day. I cannot leave you without asking you about. We're calling this a Graydon Carter question. Graydon Carter famously paid his staff in the 90s, $500,000 contracts to write two articles.
I need that book.
It's great. It's great. The question is if you could write one, if you're in a time machine, you're given unlimited funds to write a story for a year or two or whatever. What would that story be? What would you want to tap into with that budget and that time?
See, I think that's the problem is that this is why I'm not a reporter.
Okay.
I don't have one just like,
you
know what I mean? Sitting in
the chamber, Yeah,
I don't have one in the chamber. I think it would have to be, all I know was like, I would love to, it would have to be an investigation.
Yeah.
I would want to blow the lid off something.
Are you working on investigations on your desk now? Do you jump into those? Or is that a different kind of unit?
That's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But like, they did like a big story about Costco a few years ago. And, anything that is, and a lot of people really were interested in, how Costco got so big because people love Costco so much. So I guess like anything that would be big and touches the lives of everyone would be my interest. But I don't know if I could even pin it down on like one thing. I think I need to read more books. That's the real.
Don't we all? As editors, it's hard, but we're in like Word docs all day.
I'm in words all the time. I'm soaked in words, but I'm not But I don't read. It's hard for me to read for pleasure.
Fiction.
Yeah, but what if it's written badly?
Well, you then.
What if it's written poorly? That is the problem. That's what keeps me from reading books. Is because I'm like, what if I start reading it and I don't like it?
I mean, that's the wonderful. That's wonderful.
This is something I need to talk to.
That's why fiction is wonderful. That you have the option to like put it down, and pick up the next one and
But then it's like I bought this book and I buy all my books, so
fair. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Working at Penguin Random House.
I don't read them, but I believe in having them.
That's a tough one when you think about the economics. Yes, you want to read the book that you bought because it's your money. Yeah, I think that you have to obviously take that gamble.
That's why I like historical nonfiction, because if it's written well enough, it's even more interesting because it happened.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like David France has that book, which
Yeah.
I've talked about like so much. You'll find me talking about this everywhere.
Yeah.
I always bring it up. How to Survive a Plague, which is
Yeah.
about like AIDS activism in the late 80s and early 90s, and that is what fiction book could possibly outstrip that? Something that really happened, and it's history, and a lot of the people who lived it aren't with us anymore. And I just think like that's what I'm more drawn to.
You're a journalist.
Than fiction.
You like facts. You like reporting.
Like
you
a
like
fiction
beats.
book that was like really grounded in reality. I think I'd have a good, or it has to be like amazing fantasy. Like I read like all the Game of Thrones books when I was in college.
Yeah.
But then I think I tried reading it and I was like, this wasn't as good as I remembered. But when I read it in college, I wasn't a journalist yet.
Yeah. I agree that when you have a deeply reported piece book and the beats keep it going and they have this great pacing, there's nothing like it.
I think it's just time for me to crack open the Power Broker.
Jeez. Don't know if I'd suggest that, but I mean,
You know how many copies of the Power Broker are in the Times office?
Oh my God. It's actually in the foundation of the New York Times building.
Actually,
They've built it on the Power
Yeah,
Broker.
Renzo Piano put the Power Broker
in secret little corridors.
Underneath the Times.
Well, let's wrap this. On This to Taste, we discuss our brother's turning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire Fast and Furious taste check, media edition. Are you ready?
Yes.
What is the first thing you read in the morning, and where do you read it?
I crack open Twitter first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Got to read my tweets. Got to make sure got to check out what the alternate side parking situation is.
Yeah.
And I need to look at what New York Metro weather posts so I can get the weather rating for the day and prepare myself accordingly. And then I might run a sweep through the Times like homepage on like the app.
You check the app homepage. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you read on actual paper, if anything?
No.
Really?
Like probably so little now.
No blue bag for you on the doorstep?
No.
That's okay.
No. I just don't mind reading things on like online. I for years I've used Instapaper, which like helps you like save stories all in one place. And so I'll like pull like long form journalism from there. So and mostly what you'll find me reading is either extremely like it's a lot of New York Magazine stuff because I used to work there and I love finding old stories from New York Magazine and reading them.
So no print publications in your household, like periodical, like magazines.
The thing is, I used to get magazines, but then they would you don't read them and they stack up.
Yeah,
and I'm worried about the trees. So the only issue I will try and get is like every year, New York has its fashion issue twice a year, and it's like a double issue, and I try and get that in print because I love the stories in it, and I just feel like you have to hold it in your hands. But it's rare that I'll get my most likely version of like picking something up physically is being at the airport. You get there, you go to the Hudson, like books stand, and you grab magazines.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what you do.
What was your favorite food publication growing up?
When people are like, how'd you get into food media? And I'm like, well, I like to eat. That's how I got into food media. I know there's people who are like, oh, I loved Old Bon Appetit. And I love that wasn't me. I did watch a lot of Food Network, though, because my mom went through dieting in the 2000s. And we had Food Network on all the time. And I loved Good Eats. That was like my favorite show.
Oh, yeah.
Good Eats was my favorite show on earth. And especially because it was filmed in my hometown, Marietta, Georgia. So I was always like, he's at the Harry's down the street.
Oh, that's cute. That's nice. Yeah. Any PBS?
No, like kids PBS, like Arthur.
Yeah, Arthur. Oh yeah, sweet.
Yeah,
Arthur Fist. I love it. but no like cooking, no PBS cooking, none of those. Okay.
No, just a lot of Food Network.
Let's talk about YouTube, TikTok. Where are you at with it all right now?
I love TikTok. Down.
Yeah.
And unsurprisingly, my TikTok is not about food.
Yeah.
I don't engage with food that way. I don't know. I come by it natural. If I have an idea about food, it's because I literally came by it naturally. Like I didn't, I almost, or I saw like a random tweet. Like that's what gets me. Like that's what makes me want to write something, or pitch an idea, or somebody pitches it to me.
Yeah.
And YouTube, I mean, also, again, I don't really watch a ton of food media. My thing that I love to watch on YouTube is a young Floridian girl who plays The Sims.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I grew up playing The Sims and I love it. And she builds really cool houses.
Oh, word.
And it's like watching,
Nice.
it's like ASMR for me to watch her play
Yeah.
The Sims.
Yeah, and she has like many clips out of
She's
it.
like a Simfluencer, like an official. Like they send her the games early. She's really like, her name is Kayla Sims. I swear to God, that's her real name.
Wait,
And
stop. That's
yes,
amazing.
Kayla Sims, and she lives down in Florida. And like years ago, I wrote a story about the culture of food in the game The Sims.
Oh, cool.
Because like when I was growing up, if you want to talk about food influence, the first time I heard about lobster thermidor, The Sims.
Yeah.
I heard about I thought it was made up food. The first time I heard about carbonara, The Sims, because The Sims had like high end food. They like bake Alaskas in The Sims from the first game, the first generation of that game. Now it's on the fourth, and like the food diversity on that show, food diversity in that game is insane. They have like Brazilian food, everything like you can imagine, and they have very detailed descriptions of it. And I wrote a story about this like in 2022 about how rich the world of food is in The Sims, and I interviewed her for it.
So good. Last one. Where do you want to be in 5 years with your career?
I want to, ideally, I would love to be like our restaurant's like editor for like New York City. You know what I mean? Like, and then also I have like I have a dream of like where to eat, not just being, which is like, this is going to sound like, okay, we've just circled back around to blogs.
Yeah.
Back when like there used to be like, a Grub Street in multiple cities and like eateries to cover every city.
Yeah.
But my thing is not like that. It's like, I would love for us to have like where to eat Chicago, where to eat LA. And it's like, you still get like the normal, like you get a where to eat that's kind of tailored to other cities, because I have a lot of our subscribers are people who don't even live here.
Yeah.
They're tourists, or they used to live here.
They dip
and
in.
they read it every week.
They dip in, yeah.
Just because they're like,
They want to know.
they're obsessed with what's happening in New York City. And I think that the same can be said about LA and Chicago and, these other cities where food is changing all the time. There's restaurants being opened all the time, and they deserve, I think, like kind of like, it's the coverage isn't breathless. I think that in the blog era, it was too breathless. Like we don't need to report on the movement of every single chef.
Yeah.
But I think that it could be, a level of breathing that is calm, maybe resting rate. And it's more like, okay, we're doing, once a week you get a newsletter about what's happening in LA, like what, and it's from somebody you trust, and they, you know what I mean? That would be like my dream, is to have it not go overly crazy with the franchising, but get to a point where it's other cities kind of get the where to eat treatment, because I think that everyone deserves it.
But not like the Infatuation and Eater, because like those are the two that are basically doing that.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a different
But in the form of
flavor.
a newsletter and a column.
In the form of a newsletter,
a
right?
weekly newsletter. I just think it's like very hard. Like I know people want to cover everything with so much granularity.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I think that people have a lot of things to do. There's a lot, the media diet is fattening right now. There's a lot out there. You know what I mean? So it's like, how
we're
can
eating
we,
a lot of factory food, a lot of factory farmed media diet food.
and I think that people really, and I say this all the time, I think what people want is curation. In a world of so many choices, how can we help you narrow it down? And it's like, that was always the purpose of Where to Eat. That will always be the purpose of Where to Eat. I think that's what people crave, is they don't need to know everything. They don't have to, like, they don't need an exhaustive rundown of everything. They just need, like, they just want good advice from people they trust. Mm-hmm. That's the dream.
I hope you can do it. Nikita Richardson, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining This Is Taste.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
This Is Taste is hosted and produced by Eliza Barbanal and me, Matt Rodbard. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.